Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of The Human Side of Marketing. I'm your co-host, Chris Angel, here with your host, Kurt Stockwell.
Hello, Chris.
Kurt, how's it been out there in the farming land? Have you been farming your follow-up lately?
Oh, yeah. We talked about follow-up last time. Yeah. I try to get better and better every time I follow up.
There's always new nuances, new levels to experiment with, explore. I think sometimes it's just about testing. Things are always moving. Nothing is static. So you've got to always be willing to try something new and keep testing different things. And I think that's really important.
That is critical in being in business, whether you own your business or whether you work for somebody, you always have to be willing to try something new.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
One of the things that isn't new for most people is the message they've been using in their marketing. Like it's the same thing they've had for the last 10 years. And meanwhile, if I can create a little picture, they've spent all sorts of kinds of money on business cards and TVs and banners and all sorts of pretty things to make it look good. But the message has remained the same for 10 years and they have not been experimenting with that.
That is the case. So the topic for the show today is your message is more important than your branding.
Mm-hmm.
And the word branding kind of can mean many different things to many different people. A lot of people think, initially logos and colors and, like all the way down to like wrapping your truck or your vehicle or your signage. And those things are very, very exciting and fun. And as a visual person, I totally get down with that
you're
process.
A visual person, right?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I started in the graphic design world and helped a lot of people come up with beautiful branding and coming up with like, do we want this font? Do we want that font? And spending so much time obsessing about those things. And at the end of the day, you've got this beautiful brand and you put it out there and you hand your business card to somebody, or you create this beautiful website and it's all about how visually pleasing it is. And you wonder why nobody is buying your product. Because you've never taken the time to really focus on the message that you need to put into your marketing. So I would say that your message is more important than your branding.
Let's talk about why that is. Because I think, if the minute I start to think about my messaging, I just see a bunch of words. I start to shut down. I'm reminded of English class in high school where I had to write papers and I waited to the last minute. There's all sorts of traumatic experiences I think of when I have to write a message.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of businesses, they get overwhelmed and people would even say that that whole process of coming up with the logo, figuring out colors, figuring out graphic design for a banner or a billboard or whatever, that is overwhelming as well. So they'll go hire a professional to help them with that.
Right.
And that's very easily when you're creating a business or you're rebranding your business, it's very natural to think, I need to spend good money on getting these things done because I don't have the ability to do it myself.
Right.
But there's this feeling that spending the money on the words that we use to talk about our product or service, that's something that I can do it myself, or I can just huddle the team together and we'll figure it out together. And then you've put forth messaging that has the same internal speak, the same shop talk, the same, lofty messages that are kind of somewhere out in space that people don't really understand. And it's just adding to the problem.
Right.
And so the reason why I wanted to have this conversation is I went into I had a meeting the other day with a company in town and they're like, hey, we want you to build our website. We've got X number of dollars set aside for it. And, I'm like, okay, well, what do you do?
Right.
I kind of had a rough idea, but often what I'll do is I'll go into a meeting not having an idea of what the company does. So I can ask questions that everybody else is asking. So I said, well, what do you do? Yeah. And she had a really hard time explaining what she did, what the company did. And I said, I want to back up a second. I could take your $20,000 and that you have earmarked for your messaging or for your website, but you can't even clearly explain to me what you do. And I'm sitting in front of you. Let's start first with getting clarity on your messaging and make this website have much more ROI,
Mm-hmm.
much more return on your investment when people really understand what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. I love that you said ROI in that too, because I think a lot of times, while the way something looks gives us immediate gratification for, I don't know. I'm a little I love the way things look. And I am also clear that it strokes my ego a little bit of like, yeah, that looks pretty awesome. So I think that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But like the messaging of things, I mean, it's so important. You can't just have something look good, and if it's unclear, people don't buy. So the ROI is not in the way it looks. I mean, you tell me, but I'm based on this conversation, I would say the ROI is not the way something looks. It's in the substance of the message of the story you're telling to the world.
Right. When you think about it, a lot of times branding, the visual things of your company that you do are really kind of your own ego stroke.
Mm-hmm. They are for me. I can say that true. That's true for
Yeah.
me.
And when you focus on your messaging,
Mm-hmm.
that's really something that you are making an investment for your customers.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
it's not as, you're not going to get the same reaction and tingly feelings about reading a great sales letter as you will with somebody revealing, you know, a storyboard of your new branding. Right.
Right.
Um,
It's always like the reveal in those reality shows where they walk into the before and after of a house that was remodeled or a
yeah.
restaurant that was remodeled, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's amazing!" And so we love the way it looks and feels, right? But
I like that analogy of the house because really, when you think about it, the structure of that home
mm-hmm.
is necessary for what's inside to look good.
Totally, yeah,
The
right.
foundation of that home is necessary for that
Mm.
home to stay upright and you know, provide a space for those things inside that look good.
Yeah.
If the contractor that was hired to build the home never put in a solid foundation,
Mm-hmm.
there's nowhere to do all of those, you know, beautiful interior decorating kind of things.
Right.
Right. And
Beautiful.
so what I'm talking about is the foundational
Mm.
aspects of your marketing have to start with figuring out your messaging.
Yeah.
And then let's worry about the colors and the shape
Right.
on all of that. That's
Yeah.
critical because
I don't mean to poo-poo the way things look. I think that elevates the experience. To your point, like I think it makes the
absolutely.
space look even better. But like you're saying, people are coming in putting all sorts of fancy designer things on no bones, no infrastructure, no
Right.
foundation.
Right, exactly. And with any, you know, you can kind of do the mental journey of a home that doesn't have a solid foundation. Eventually, it's going to start to crack and crumble
Right.
and fall. And all of that money that was spent. I mean, you've seen those renovation shows before too, where they spent a ton of money doing something, and the new contractors coming in going, "Oh, well, the reason why this side of the house is falling down is because they never fixed the foundation, the foundational issues."
Oops.
So yeah, a big oops. So I really think that spending time on your messaging is an investment into your customers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that.
Spending time on your branding is an investment into your customers as well, but it sure does make you feel good and pretty. And,
Right.
you know, you're kind of puffing your chest out when you're handing out that new business card,
It,
or
yeah.
or that your interior space looks fresh and crisp and awesome, and all your colors are popping when people walk into the office. That's a big ego stroke for you, really.
Yeah. I mean, I get the customer experience of things like, you know, when you like, I like Starbucks. I like the way their stores look. I choose that often to go in and experience. I just like to do work in there because of the
Yeah.
environment.
Yeah.
But to your point, again, it can't just be customer experience, because underneath that customer experience is a foundation of infrastructure, right? There's
Right.
foundation there, and
Right.
the way it looks is just built on top of that to enhance the experience. And so to your point, the messaging is the thing that has them decide that they want to work with you. And then once they decide to work with you, they can actually enjoy the
Right.
visual aesthetics that you've built into your brand. But they can't enjoy the brand, and they don't buy from you based on the brand. They
Right.
buy from you based on whether they feel like you can help them or not.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Very well put.
Well, this is a good conversation because I think you're right. I think gets overlooked a ton. Like we said in the beginning, people have invested in their aesthetics or their brand for years and haven't touched their message. So I think this is really important. This is where marketing is going.
Mm-hmm.
And those that figure that out are going to benefit from that. And those that don't are going to suffer because the consumer is already moving that direction. If they can't figure out what your thing does, they're already skeptical and cynical that you can help them. So your messaging is the only thing that can get through. And you've said this in past episodes, but you can hire somebody to make anything look good.
Right.
You can go on to it's no longer about things looking good. You can go on to Fiverr, you can go all sorts of places and get something that some graphic artist created to look good.
Right.
And that's what the consumer's interacting with all the time. So they're already seeing things that look good, but they have a nose now for foundation and substance. They're like, I don't smell any foundation here.
Yep.
I smell no substance here.
Yep.
And so they can spot the ruse that it is, right?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yep. And we did do an episode a while back where we talked about the fact that getting something to look good is not that hard anymore.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different ways to get it done on the cheap, and it actually looks quality.
Yeah.
But one thing that you can't get done on the cheap is taking the time to work with a professional who can invest in drawing. Because really what it comes down to is when I've worked with individuals, they're like, we've always struggled with our messaging. Like, well, why have you struggled with your messaging? We've never been able to really figure out how to say it in a way that makes sense. And I'm like, well, who have you hired to actually specifically help you with the words that you use to talk about your product and service? We've always done it internally. Like, okay, well, you've never had somebody come in and try to extract what's already in you, you know, because that's something that I tell businesses all the time too, is your great message is already in you.
Yeah.
I just need to ask the right questions to kind of pull it out.
Right.
It's already there. You already know why you do what you do, why your customers buy, how it makes them feel. You probably already know all of that. Most businesses I work with are clued in enough to know those things. They've just never had time to have an outsider, like I said, come in without that curse of knowledge. Often I'll come in and not even have a real clear understanding of what the company does, so I can ask dumb questions.
Right.
Because your customer sure is wondering those questions.
Right. Right.
You know, and oftentimes you're glossing over them because you forgot what it was like to experience your product for the first time. So that's just a simple process of and it really is a simple process of just having a conversation. And within about 45 minutes to an hour, we've got great clarity on how we want to move forward in messaging. And another thing too, when you get that foundation right, just like building a home or renovating a home, it's going to cost you way less money to make that thing look awesome for years and years and years and function well for years and years and years, is because the foundation is strong.
Yeah, it's good. That's really good. I love that. Well, you've been lighting up the metaphors the last couple episodes. Like, you're on fire. House remodels, marriage. We got into marriage last time. Farming.
Yeah, we talked about killing stuff the episode before.
Right. Yes. I can't wait to see what we do in the next episode. If people want to learn more about getting their messaging right and investing in the foundation of their business, which is their message, like, how do they connect with you?
So they can go to welldressedwalrus.com. If you don't like to type all that, you can type in wdwalrus.com, or you can go to clarifymymarketing.com and schedule a time just to have a conversation.
Nice. Beautiful. Great stuff, Kurt. Thanks for leading this conversation in the world about being more human, right? The human side of marketing. Appreciate that. And I look forward to our next conversation.
Hey, thanks, Chris.